Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today to this live video where I wanted to talk about, sorry, I just want to make sure everything is working well. So if you can make sure you maybe write in that you can hear me, that'll be great. So my name is Dr. Ina Lakshan. I am a naturopathic doctor and the founder of the Hormone Rebalance Center. And today I wanted to talk with you a little bit about if you're a woman over 40 and you're struggling with weight gain or possibly, feeling like losing the weight has becoming increasingly hard. Hi, perfect, Susie, thanks. Then why you want to pay attention to this one notorious hormone that is likely playing a role behind it all to some degree, and that is cortisol. So let me start by sort of mentioning why does it matter if you're over 40, okay? Yes, of course, women of all ages struggle with weight gain, and certainly women younger as well. But what starts happening with women once they reach kind of that 40 and above is they enter this fun phase called perimenopause. If you've never heard of that phase, let me make an introduction. It's the years preceding menopause where women's ovaries begin to decline and kind of hormones are all over the place. Women can be experiencing high estrogen, low estrogen, progesterone fluctuations, testosterone starts to decline, and many of the symptoms that are similar to menopause, like hot flashes, night sweats, poor sleep, mood fluctuations, vaginal dryness, weight gain, can all start, to some degree or another, women start experiencing them. So this is a phase that typically begins about 4 years before menopause, but can sometimes be as much as 10 years, if not longer. And in our practice, in our office, we see on average, the average woman we actually see is about 45 years old. So it's typically the lady that comes in and she's starting to struggle with either heavier periods or lighter periods, some of those reproductive sex hormone problems, but the weight gain tends to be one of her biggest, most bothersome concerns. So if you're struggling with that and you feel like, this is your body and know that it's experienced across the board, okay? So it's not just you, it's not your body. Many women struggle with that, and for good reason. So you may be thinking, if perimenopause is one of the contributors, why not just go tackle estrogen and progesterone? And yes, if those imbalances play a role for you, you certainly want to tackle those as well. But what we do and what we found works best is tackling cortisol for all women across the board. So regardless of what hormonal imbalance we're treating, for every woman individually, we almost always tackle cortisol. In fact, whether their weight gain is a problem or not, because tackling cortisol goes a long way with tackling the rest of your hormonal imbalances. So let me start by maybe explaining to you a little bit what is cortisol. If you've never heard of it, cortisol is our stress hormone. It gets produced by two little glands called the adrenal glands that are above each of our kidneys. And really the adrenal glands, they're like a hormone powerhouse, okay? They start by pumping out cortisol, and cortisol gets produced throughout the whole day. So this isn't just when you're stressed. Every day you're producing cortisol, and it has what's called this diurnal pattern, meaning in the mornings your cortisol production should be the highest. So you should be waking up with the most amount of energy. You should be waking up refreshed. That cortisol spike is meant to set you through your day, set up your blood sugar balance, set up your energy levels, your motivation, get you going, okay? And then during the day, it needs to slowly decline, and at nighttime be low enough for melatonin to take over and for you to feel the need to go to bed, okay? So first of all, it's really important to make sure that you have proper cortisol production, and we see sometimes people the total opposite. They're way too flatlined in the morning. Not enough cortisol is produced in the morning, so they wake up feeling fatigued and tired, like they, even if they slept well, like they're dragging their feet. They get this spike during the day, and then they're way too wired at night, not being able to fall asleep. And then especially if you struggle with sleep problems where you wake up in the middle of the night, that could be a cortisol problem. If you notice a specific time, typically between 2 to 4 a.m., not just to go to the bathroom, but you just naturally wake up and you're not sure why it's taking you a long time to fall asleep, that's an indication of a cortisol problem. So beyond now knowing what cortisol does and how it's produced, what you want to be paying attention to is, first of all, what is it doing in the body? What is its role? So cortisol plays hand in hand with your blood sugar balance. It's actually involved in many different processes, from your breathing to your use of muscles for energy, your fight or flight response, not just your like immediate stress response if you're running from a bear or from an angry boss or something, but the day-to-day things like how do you respond to a sugary meal? How do you respond to coffee? How do you respond to not having slept? Things like that. Specifically, it plays a role in your metabolism. It can slow down your metabolism. If you're constantly on this go type of pattern and way of being, it's going to teach your body to make sure that it pumps out more energy for your organs like your heart and your muscles to keep this going, rather than on your metabolism and on properly digesting food and on rest and things like that. It also plays a role in your blood sugar balance, like I mentioned. Cortisol and insulin are like BFFs, okay? So if one is out of balance, for sure the other one will be out of balance as well, and vice versa. Dysregulation in insulin causes a cortisol imbalance. Dysregulation in cortisol will cause an insulin imbalance. I'll talk about that soon, and when I talk about tips of what you want to do to tackle your cortisol. Other things it plays a role in, it can slow down thyroid, it can slow down progesterone production in the body, what's called cortisol steal effect. So it can have an impact on your PMS, on your perimenopause, on your all other hormonal symptoms, as well as, like I mentioned, thyroid. In fact, in our practice, a lot of times if we see women with thyroid problems, many times by just tackling their cortisol alone can already correct their thyroid problem, or allow them to take a lower dose of medications, or allow them to, to keep it managed and under control. So you'll go a really long way by tackling cortisol when it comes to addressing all your other symptoms, especially weight gain. So now that we talked a little bit about cortisol, I wanted to share with you some tips on how do you want to make sure that it's well managed and, it's helping you when it comes to weight gain rather than working against you. So first of all, I'm a big proponent of doing proper testing. You want to test what your cortisol levels are like to know how to properly address it. Like I mentioned, since cortisol goes through this diurnal pattern where it fluctuates during the day, when it comes to conventional blood testing, it's not a great solution because conventionally patients, if their doctors test cortisol at all, they would typically send them for one-time assessment during the day. And that's just not enough when you're trying to get a pattern to see, are you on your way down, are you on your way up? One point time collection of blood work is just not sufficient to really truly understand what your cortisol production is like. In our office, we use a lot urine testing, so the Dutch test, because it shows a lot of different aspects of cortisol. What is the actual cortisol curve? Cortisone, which is inactive form of cortisol, very important to know if you have a high production, low production, or maybe just a conversion issue. Maybe your body's deactivating your cortisol too slowly, too quickly, and that's why you're symptomatic. It's not a matter of production necessarily. And then it's that, enzyme that you want to tackle. So proper testing, but even if you're not able to do necessarily specific testing and all the fancy stuff, watching for your symptoms, and there's certainly some things that you can do in your day-to-day that across the board will really help everyone. So let me first share a few certain vitamins that you want to pay attention to. Some key vitamins for cortisol regulation include your B vitamins, magnesium. Those two work really well in combination together when it comes to regulating your adrenals, and vitamin C. So let me share a really interesting tip. If you didn't know, the highest concentration of vitamin C in the body is in the adrenal glands, meaning the adrenal glands that produce your stress response have the highest need for vitamin C. And that's why there's also a really close correlation between high stress and poor immune system. If your body is under high stress, it will chew up your vitamin C to keep pumping out more cortisol. That's going to take away from other organs and systems like the immune system. So B vitamins and active B vitamins, good quality B vitamins, okay? If they don't make your urine yellow, they're not a good quality B vitamin. As well as vitamin C and magnesium. Those in combination can really go a long way. okay, then you also want to be paying attention to a class of herbs called adaptogens. So adaptogens, these are herbs that really help you adapt. They adapt to stress. And there's a lot of herbs in that class, and I don't necessarily recommend self-prescribing, so I'm just going to name a few of the common ones you may already be familiar with, like ashwagandha, rhodiola, licorice. Licorice can be great if you have a poor conversion problem, not good if you have high blood pressure, but very good if you have low blood pressure as a woman especially. But there's some herbs that are a little bit more stimulating, like ginseng could be stimulating. Some herbs that are a little bit more calming, like valerian and passion flower. These are better if you have sleep problems. So you want to make sure that the right herb is selected for you, especially if you do have a cortisol curve, you know, that you can see when are you overproducing, underproducing, and in that case, do you want to be stimulating your cortisol production or lowering your cortisol production, or just simply even balancing it? Okay, so vitamins, adaptogens, you want to be paying very close attention to your blood sugar balance. I can't stress that enough. One of the biggest things we do with women to tackle both weight gain and cortisol is work on their diet to make sure that it's nice and balanced. Low carbs, high fats, especially low carb breakfast. Again, that sets the stage for your day. If you have your carbs, have complex carbs more towards the nighttime to possibly help you sleep. I'm not talking about a slice of cheesecake before bed. I'm talking more about a little bit of maybe wild rice or yams or things like that, more for dinner. Low carb breakfast, ideally no carbs for breakfast. Focus on proteins and fats. That really helps set the stage for proper blood sugar balance during the day. And if you have proper blood sugar balance, your cortisol is good, meaning, you know, if you're going up and down and you're going through crashes, it's a stressor on the body. It puts up, you know, it pulls out cortisol. It makes you it teaches your body to hold on to weight in case you go through those ups and downs. So it has extra calories to draw from. So the more you teach your body that there's a nice, good balance with your blood sugar balance, the better it's going to be with regards to your cortisol production and hence your weight loss efforts. It goes without saying that being low carb in and of itself will help your weight loss efforts, okay? But it does so by managing cortisol as well. Next, there's sleep. Like I mentioned, sleep, it's, you know, if you're the type that you've already learned to get used to poor sleep and it became your norm, don't accept that as normal, okay? You really want to make sure you've corrected that. I've seen countless patients where they only come in for sleep problems and then as a nice, pretty side effect, they start losing weight. They didn't even necessarily come to tackle their weight, but because they've corrected their sleep and they're sleeping through the night and, you know, they're able to wake up refreshed, and that works on their circadian rhythm. That cortisol curve is much better. Because of that, they're doing much better, and their body just starts letting go of that excess weight that it doesn't need to hold on to anymore, okay? So it's all those little things and pieces of the puzzle that you want to be, that you want to be tackling. Hi, Sue. Thanks for joining. Lastly, I wanted to talk about, what I mentioned is about the testing as well. If you want to learn more about cortisol testing, make sure to grab the hormone testing cheat sheet that we've created for you. I'll make sure to add that in the comments section that you can simply download. It gives you all the ins and outs of not just cortisol, but also your other reproductive hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. About 2 weeks ago, I did another live where I talked about common mistakes that are being made when it comes to testing hormones. So you want to make sure, if you're the type that you really love to do testing and take a look at what's the actual cause of your symptoms and your concerns, and especially if you're the type that has been struggling for some time and you feel you've tried this and that and nothing's working, I definitely advise you look into more proper customized, individualized testing so you can see for you what the actual issue is. So you can download that freebie to learn more about how you can work with your doctor, what different tests are available out there, and also how to best test certain hormones depending on the symptoms you're experiencing. So why don't you mention if you have any specific questions. I can quickly just do a recap of the things that we talked about, of why you know, like I mentioned, where are you located? We're at Eglinton and Avenue, Cool Winter. So, but we also do, actually, a lot of our patients do remote consults. We've been seeing a lot more patients remotely. All the services that we do, all the, and all the testing that we do can all be shipped out to patients. So a lot of our patients don't even step foot in the office. We do it all through video conferencing, but you're certainly welcome to come to the office as well. Susie, yes, it's not that, you know, it's not that doctors don't know anything. Unfortunately, they're kind of working within the very limited healthcare system that we have. So they have, you know, they have access to what they have, right? And only blood work, and not all blood work will properly test, especially cortisol. I would not even really rely on blood work for cortisol. So, and Sue, if you're in Sudbury, not a problem. Like I mentioned, we can do remote consults. So you can make sure you reach out to us. Yeah, so I've been getting the runaround for years now. Yeah, you know, sometimes when you're not getting proper answers, and we see it all the time, unfortunately, women come to us and they say, you know, I've seen that doctor and that specialist, and they've done this test and that test, and nothing comes up, or everything comes back as normal. Either at that point, you need to look more into functional testing. So yes, it's out-of-pocket testing. A lot of those tests are run through the US, but they're a lot more advanced and they're a lot more individualized. So they show a lot more about your metabolic imbalances. Like the testing that we use looks at 50 different hormone markers. It's like a 15-page report of your entire biochemistry with regards to hormones and metabolism, cortisol, liver function, sleep, neurotransmitters, all of that. What would you recommend for normalization of cortisol levels after an extended period of prednisone? Okay, so it's a great question. It's very individualized because it depends what symptoms, what did you take prednisone for to begin with, you know, it's important to investigate a few factors before answering that type of question. What kind of symptoms did you start experiencing after the prednisone? So some people, easy breezy, no side effects. Some people are very impacted by prednisone, but prednisone is pretty much high dose cortisone that stops your own suppression. So, and the treatments will also vary whether you're still on it or not. I find glandulars, so supplements that have glandulars, what those are, they are extracts from usually from either cow or pig of cortisol tissue, which is actually cortisol replacement. We usually use extracts, those glandulars, for people that are very flatlined on their cortisol production, meaning after having gone through a long course of prednisone, or having gone, you know, they're just so exhausted, so burned out that their production is very low throughout the, you know, the day. Glandulars, short term, up to 6 months, can be quite effective to kind of revive the system. So something you may want to consider, but it's a bit of a complex question. You want to make sure you speak to a practitioner to get all those questions and history before giving you a recommendation, okay? Does Hashimoto's affect your cortisol? So, great question. It's usually the other way around. Cortisol affects your Hashimoto's. Cortisol, by the time, let me start with that, by the time thyroid has become an issue, almost guaranteed there's some form of cortisol problem behind the scenes. Thyroid is one of those hormones that you know, that takes a while to get out of balance, and is also fairly quick to respond when you correct the other imbalances that are sort of underneath it. So definitely, if you have Hashimoto's, you want to be doing something for your cortisol and adrenal response. And what I find for Hashimoto's, your diet, things like anti-inflammatory diet, gluten plays a really big role in Hashimoto's. So it's a bit of a different protocol than what we do for someone just with hypothyroidism. Also depends, are you medicated, how high your antibodies actually are. There's a slightly different intervention, but absolutely, you want to tackle cortisol. Cortisol alone, like I mentioned at the beginning, can really help improve thyroid markers for patients if you don't even do anything directly to address thyroid. So I hope that answered your question. Anything else I can help answer for you guys? Otherwise, I hope at least I was able to make you understand, even if you're a woman over, your 40s, and while you're noticing some changes with regards to perimenopause, menopause, coming around, sleep problems, mood problems, all those other fun symptoms, and some women just rush to go treat their estrogen, progesterone, and they think that that's the only problem, or even they think they want to just start from thyroid. Cortisol is a foundational hormone. So definitely you want to start there, because that alone can tackle some of those symptoms. And sex drive, great question. Very close connection with sex drive and cortisol. What happens, think about it, if cortisol is our stress hormone, and even though at this day and age we're not running away from bears, our day-to-day response to stress is still the same. So whether it's you're running late to work, you're rushing to pick up the kids, you're rushing to get dinner, there's deadlines at work, there's all these things going on, drop-offs this, pickups that, aging parents, everything that we're really faced with, your body is in constant fight or flight mode. And in that mode, your body has to prioritize where to divert energy to. So it diverts it to your muscles, it diverts it to make sure that you have enough energy during the day to get things done, to make sure your blood sugar level is balanced, so there's enough insulin for and glucose for your muscles. It doesn't care about sex drive. It doesn't care about reproducing, because that's the role of sex drive, right? So closest thing you want to be doing if sex drive is low is tackling cortisol. But sex drive could be a little bit tricky, because it could also be declining estrogen, declining testosterone. So if that's the main concern, then you want to actually take a more complete look at hormones. But cortisol is definitely a piece of that puzzle when it comes to sex drive. Yeah. So I hope I answered all your questions. And even when I go sort of off the video, make sure to write in the comments questions, and I'll keep checking in, and I'll make sure to answer any questions as best I can. I hope you enjoyed this topic. If I'm going to be trying to do live Facebook, Facebook lives like these for the next upcoming weeks, and actually every week. So make sure you email us questions if you have. Thank you, Susie, and you let us know what else I can help you with, and what kind of burning problems you're struggling with that we can help you from a hormone standpoint. And we'll make sure to also have a more detailed blog post about everything I just talked about. And if you want to learn more about testing, you can make sure you go to the link that I'm gonna write in the comment section. It's also hormonerebalance.com/hormone-testing. So /hormone-testing. We'll make sure that we're going to add that into the comment section. Okay. So thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye guys. Take care.